Okay, the recording has started. My name is Lenitra Guest, and I am the TEA Ombudsman, and we'll be going through the statewide virtual training for the 25-26 ESSA PNP Private Nonprofit School Equitable Services Affirmations Smartsheet WorkApp Data Submission and Instructions. This is the attendance check-in. If you did not check in earlier, please select the event name and register your name and your position or title. And you may provide your email address or you can leave it off. If you do provide your email address and there are questions that you specifically ask, I will have a direct email address to respond. And then if you could indicate your role, or if you're an ESC, indicate your ESC number or your school system name and CDN number. To assess the statewide training video and slides, they will be posted once available on our Federal Program Compliance Division resources page. There is a section that says ESSA Private Nonprofit Equitable Services, and that is where you will be able to find access to this recording later, as well as the presentation slides will be there, and a frequently asked questions document will be there. As I stated earlier, to ensure that there is enough time for all questions to be answered, first I need to get through the presentation, and please put your questions in the Q&A box, not the chat box, and I will respond to them after the session. If I do not make it through all of the responses, they will be answered and the questions and responses will be posted within a few weeks on our web page. This presentation is intended solely to provide general information and guidance to Texas LEAs, education service centers, nonprofits and subgrantees, and participating private schools that are receiving equitable services. The content of this presentation reflects the Texas Education Agency's current understanding of statute and applicable federal guidance. The content of this presentation is subject to change as a result of future guidance and/or other updates provided by federal agencies with regulatory oversight of these programs. This presentation does not constitute legal advice, and entities are therefore advised to seek legal advice, legal counsel regarding the information and guidance before acting upon information. As a notice, our division does not permit the recording or use of AI intelligence. The Texas Education Agency does not permit third-party recording or the use of artificial intelligence summary services during its grants-related trainings. Attendees of TEA's grant-related trainings may not use AI services, language models, applications, interfaces, or assistance to attend, review, or record the trainings. TEA further prohibits any person or entity from using the information included in its grants-related trainings to train AI technologies. Any attendees of TEA's grant-related trainings who violate this prohibition may be removed from the trainings and may be barred from attending future grant-related trainings. By the end of this presentation, participants will gain a better understanding of the 25-26 divisions, Federal Program Compliance Divisions, a PNP Affirmations Smartsheet WorkApp system, the PNP Affirmation of Consultation forms within the WorkApp submission process, how to resolve any of the PNP Affirmation Smartsheet issues, and Also receive and know the resources available for completing the PNP Affirmation of Consultation forms for participating private nonprofit schools. Here are a few things that I will be speaking on today. First, I'll just have a few slides about on the basics of private nonprofit, just to ensure that everyone understands. And then there will be, I'll walk through the PNP Affirmations Smartsheet WorkApp on how to access requests for that WorkApp and the PNP data submission, resolving the PNP Affirmation Smartsheet submission issues, and how to utilize the FPC WorkApp help form. And then at the end of the presentation, I'll have lots of resources available for you as well. And as I stated earlier, the presentation slides will be posted on our resources page following our presentation. They are not available today. So just getting to the basics of private nonprofit and what it means. First, to define non-public or nonprofit, the CFR statute defines nonprofit as an agency, organization, or institution owned and operated by one or more corporations or associations whose net earnings do not benefit and cannot lawfully benefit any private shareholder or entity. The private school is the one that does have the burden of proof on showing the school system that it is actually a nonprofit entity in order to be eligible or seek eligibility for services. In order to be a private school, the statute defines private as that agency, organization, or institution that is not under federal or public supervision or control. And then it must also meet the two definitions of nonprofit and non-public. All three of these are requirements that a private school must have documentation to share with the school system to ensure that it meets these three requirements prior to being able to receive services. Equitable services are eligible for the Title I Part A program, as well as the Title VIII programs that are under the ESSA Section 8501. And that would be the Title I Part C, which is migrant, Title II Part A, professional development, Title III Part A, English learners and immigrant students, Title IV Part A, and Title IV Part B. Title IV Part B is the 21st Century Community Learning Centers, and that is a competitive grant. So not all entities that would receive ESSA funding would receive the 21st Century grant. But those that do receive the grant, there are eligibility criteria for private school students to be eligible for participation with 21st Century Equitable Services. The LEA must provide services that are designed to meet and supplement educational needs for the eligible private school students and staff. And so the district is not providing those core curriculum. It is responsible for providing services that are supplemental to what the private school is already providing to their students. The equitable services must remain non-religious. It cannot have any religious content at all that is being provided on behalf of the private school through the district, or including any of the services that the private school may seek. The equitable educational services must be compared to services that a student would have received in a public school. and provide it in a timely manner. Equitable services are monitored and enforced by the state PNP ombudsman, and I am the ombudsman that ensures that private schools are receiving the equitable services, and I work with not only the private schools, but also the school systems to ensure that they have an understanding of equitable services, what it means, and how those services are being provided. When it comes to providing services, the first thing is there must be a consultation meeting between the school system and the private schools that have an interest in receiving services. And so the successful consultation, it starts before implementation of services. So starting those services, you the two entities should be establishing a positive and productive working relationship, and that should go throughout the school year. It is not a one-time consultation meeting at the beginning of the school year and a consultation meeting at the end. Consultation should occur throughout the school year to ensure that the private school is receiving the services that they need, it's meeting the needs of their students and their staff, and that the school system is ensuring that everything is working according to the requirements of equitable services and providing that support for those private schools that are participating. And so here are some of the things that must be shared during the consultation. And this is only a selection of a few of those consultation requirements. There should be an understanding that, first of all, the school system is the one that would be conducting an outreach to those private schools located within its boundaries, and any of those schools that may have students that would have attended a public school but is attending a private school outside of its boundaries and may need Title I Part A services. The district is the one that would initiate the PNP consultation meeting. If they don't know if a private school exists, it could be that maybe there's new private schools within the area, and I do have links for districts to be able to search and see if there are additional private schools, and that will be at the end in resources so that you could at least do your due diligence in searching for private schools that could be in your area. The district is responsible for maintaining dated documentation and keeping that documentation on file, as well as sharing what the timelines and due dates are that a private school must meet in order for services to be provided. They must also share the policies and procedures of the district, and looking at what are the professional development needs for the private school, what are the requirements and the any deadlines or timelines for a private school to request travel for professional development if it's out of the area. Also, the LEA should be sharing what their process and procedures are on technology, third-party providers, and other information that would be applicable to private schools. The districts should always consider the needs and request of the private schools and have a discussion of that prior to services being provided. There is a PNP Affirmation of Consultation form for each participating private school that an LEA would have to go through what the requirements are for consultation, as well as selecting each program that the private school would like to receive services in. This form must be completed, it must be signed by a private school official as well as the responsible staff member at the district, and that is the form that would be submitted through our PNP Affirmations WorkApp. If there are any issues regarding disagreements on services being provided, the LEA is required to provide written notice and written rationale on why they disagree. For example, that could be that they are in disagreement on using a third-party provider for services at the PNP. And so if that is the case, the LEA is required to provide that rationale. And so all of this happens through consultation. And then this section 2 is timely and meaningful consultation, equitable services on the program design. This is a section that I want to call your attention to. What happens with this section is that the LEA and private school, as they discuss, the LEA is responsible for sharing the programs in which it receives funds for, what those program requirements are with the private school official. As they're discussing those programs, then the private school is letting them know if they want to participate in those particular programs or not. And so if the LEA has shared that program information with all of the funded programs and discuss what the program design could be with respect to those eligible private school children and staff, then the LEA will select yes on those programs. If there is a program where the district did not receive funding, for example, if the district did not receive Title I Part C funding, there is no program that could exist in the public school or in the private school. And so you need to make sure that if there's no program for the public school, you would select no on that question, because there is no program to discuss since there is not funding at the public level. But if there is funding for migrant students, the district must share what that program could look like with the private school. And by sharing information, whether it be written and then walking through that information, they would select yes on part 2, even though the private school may decide to not participate. So this section of buttons is completely different from if they're participating or not. In section 1, that's right above that, that's where you indicate if they're participating with an LEA, with a shared service, through an SSA, shared service arrangement, or if the LEA is providing direct services, or if they're not participating in that particular service. This section 2 says, yes, we talked to them about the program because we received funding for it, or we had no funding for Title I Part C, so we did not discuss it, and you would just click no. So this is mainly just the discussion of the programs where you select yes or no, and please complete all of these if the private school is participating in services. Oops, let me go back. Here again are just a few of the selected topics that must be addressed during consultation. As you go through the affirmation of consultation together, you're also talking about the program requirements. As I stated earlier, the LEA must also be sharing what is the amount of equitable services with that particular private school campus. And again, as I stated, the district policies, procedures, and timelines, and to discuss what will occur if there's any potential year-end unforeseen equitable services carryover. And so that carryover discussion should occur at the beginning of the school year, even though at that point you don't know if there's going to be carryover or not of services. I have completed a diagram that helps you to know if a private school is receiving services and if for some unforeseen reason those services are not used by the end of the school year and it needs to be carried forward, these are the reasons why and where it would be carried forward in the case of carryover. The statute indicates that all services should be used within the same school year in which it was received. So that is the number one goal. However, we know that there are unforeseen circumstances that can occur due to unexpected challenges, inability to find qualified personnel to support the private schools in a timely manner, delayed consultation for some reason, weather challenges at the beginning of the school year. And so if it is a Title I Part A program and not all services were rendered, the LEA would redistribute the remaining Title I Part A services to those private schools that were impacted and participating with Title I Part A services. That is what happens with Title I Part A. Due to the services not being provided within that school year or unforeseen circumstances. However, if the private school closed or never responded to services at the beginning of the school year, even though they had planned to participate and stated they would participate in the spring or in the summer, or they declined services, then that's when, for Title I Part A, the LEA would redistribute the remaining Title I services among those private schools that are participating. If there are no other private schools that are participating and there was only that one school that closed, never responded, or declined services, then the public school would retain those Title I Part A funds for services within its public school. For Title VIII programs, it's a completely different scenario when it comes to any of the unforeseen equitable services carryover. And that is going to be for any of the unforeseen circumstances, the LEA would be responsible for redistributing those funds to the impacted private schools for services. If not all equitable services were used by the end of the school year, then the LEA should be redistributing any of the Title VIII program funds for services among not only the private schools, but also the public schools. And so that's why it's very important for private schools to use services through the school year whenever possible. And then the last one is if private schools close or never opened, the redistribution of the remaining Title VIII program funds for services would go to those participating public and private schools. Now, if this occurs early in the school year, for example, a private school closes down in the spring, early in the spring, and there is still time for the other schools to participate with services, you certainly can redistribute those funds for services in the early spring. And so I wanted to share that caveat in case there are times when the services could be used earlier in the school year instead of waiting until the end of the year to have carryover. Okay, now we're going to get into the PNP affirmation data submission and how you're going to submit those affirmations. I have already reviewed the WorkApp, and I do see that there are lots of districts that have already uploaded participating PNP Affirmation of Consultation forms. The first thing I want to state is please do not submit affirmations for those private schools that are not participating with any of the programs. If they are not participating at all, you keep those records on file. Even if you have a consultation meeting with them and they sign the consultation form for you, but they decide we don't want to participate with anything, but we wanted to come to the meeting to learn more about equitable services, the district should keep that consultation form on file and do not submit it. Districts will submit one signed affirmation per private school within the Smartsheet. And so, for example, if you are a district and you have, in this example, I use 12 participating private schools, that district would need to submit 12 separate Smartsheets with data, and along with attaching the affirmations with each individual private school's data submission. The data submission window, it opened July 1. We already have instructions for submitting the affirmation by way of the WorkApp that's already been posted on our website. So if you have not looked at that, please look at the instructions. There is lots of information in there that could be helpful as you move forward in submitting those affirmations. The deadline to submit signed affirmations by both the private school and the public school is always September 30th of the school year. And so this year, you have several more weeks to get the affirmations signed and then uploaded into the system. It is highly recommended by the Ombudsman Office that any revisions to affirmations that occur through the school year, that they be made, the final revisions be made by May 1st of 2026. That is because the final PNP affirmation amendments and the final ESSA consolidated application amendments are due June 2nd. And it works out so much easier for the district if you are capturing all of the final amendments regarding affirmations before school closes and doing that in May, before May. Because if there are private schools that ended up participating and you did not have a signed affirmation that was submitted, you need to ensure that you're getting signatures from both the private school and the public school and getting that information uploaded prior to the final amendment date. If there are any private schools that did not participate after planning to participate, and there were affirmation sheets that were uploaded in September, and then maybe they never responded or closed or declined services shortly after, you need to ensure that if there were any that did not participate, that before May, you are actually going in there and you are making those revisions to the affirmations. And I will share how to do that a little bit later in the presentation. And so to get into the WorkApp, for those with access into the Smartsheet system, they would log in, and I have the GCA WorkApp link, and that is only going to be for the few LEAs within your district, few LEA staff that have access to enter the dynamic view of the WorkApp. However, anyone can upload the affirmations into the system. But those that have access to upload affirmations may not also have access to enter the system here, because generally those that are able to submit within the dynamic view, which is the inside of the affirmations or inside of the WorkApp, they are the ones that can make changes to information on the WorkApp. And so this is the PNP Affirmations WorkApp tile that those with access would be able to click on there and enter the PNP Affirmations dynamic view. And so by doing that, they will be able to see the 25-26 PNP affirmations. And as you can see, if by clicking on that button, here's a sample. This is what those with access into the dynamic view will be able to see. They'll see the region number of that particular private school or district, as well as the name of the private school that is participating, and the county district number of the district's name. And this particular one, it says they're participating in an SSA. This is just an example. And then this is what it looks like for those that are able to post the affirmations and the data into the system. This page, this smart sheet, is open to everyone. And so anyone that has this smart sheet link, which is also located in the instruction booklet that is posted on our webpage, may go in and upload data from each participating private school, as well as the affirmation for that particular participating private school. So everyone can do this. This is the important part, is to get that affirmation uploaded by September 30th. And so as you get into that form, the smart sheet, this is what you're going to see. Is the affirmation being submitted as part of a shared services arrangement or an SSA? If so, the district will say yes, and then the district will will select its name and the CDN number from a drop-down menu. This menu smart sheet is only for districts to input data. It is not for use by the private schools. And then here, you're going to input who is the best person to contact at the district that would have knowledge about private schools and equitable services that is being provided. And so it could be that maybe the superintendent and a federal programs director actually has access to work within the dynamic view and change data, but the person that actually is working with those private schools has access to submit the affirmation from the smart sheet, and they have the program knowledge. So if I needed to contact someone, then I could say, call that person directly, that is the contact person, so that they have the information that I need. And so that's whose information you're going to be put there, as you can see. One of the things that I want to remind you again, and I know I sound like a broken recorder, but please do not submit if they're not participating in a program at all. And I'm saying that because currently I can see there are affirmations uploaded that state they are not participating in any program. So please read the instructions, and please, if they're not participating, you don't fill out the smart sheet at all. I don't even need to know the private schools in your district that are not participating. That's what you keep on file for documentation purposes in the event of an audit. And so this is the section where it asks about a private school being located within the boundaries of a district. If the private school is located within the boundaries of a district, it has access to receive programs under the Title VIII umbrella, which is the Title I Part C, Migrant, Title II Part A, Professional Development, Title III, English Learners, Immigrants, and Title IV Part A. If they're participating in those programs, or want to participate in those programs, the building must reside within that district's boundaries. If the building does not reside in that district's boundaries, you would select no, but they are participating in Title I Part A. And so only the Title I Part A box is going to open for you to complete. And then that's when you would say, yes, they're participating with Title I Part A. Even though the building is outside of our boundaries, we have low-income students that generated funding for services that would have attended our public school, our public Title I school. And then you start looking at the educational need for students. If they are not participating in Title I and they are located within your boundaries, you would just select no, but they're participating with other programs. So if you have private schools that are located within the district boundaries, this is what you will see open. You're going to select yes. There are private schools that are actually within our boundaries. It opens the rest of the program information. And so this is where you would indicate yes or no if the private school that's located inside your district boundaries is participating in each program or not. So you should have at least one yes or third party consortium or ESSA on this page in order to upload an affirmation. If the answer is not participating all the way down, you close out, do not submit this smart sheet, and keep the affirmation on hand. The only way that you will not see all of these programs pop up is if the district does not have the private school is not located within the district boundaries. If they're not within boundaries, you're only going to see Title I Part A to respond to that program. After you have that school's information entered, the name of the school, the contact information for the district, then that's when you're going to upload one PNP affirmation for that school that you just provided data for. You're going to upload the signed affirmation. Please check to make sure that you are uploading an affirmation that has everything completed on the form. Auditors are looking to ensure that there is a box checked for every program that is open and that there are signatures from both the private school and the district that are on the form prior to being uploaded. And then you're going to read the certification statement that everything that you have reported to the best of your knowledge is correct. You're going to say yes, and that submits the certification statement. After you do that, you need to ensure that you save and submit the affirmation. One of the things I want to remind you of, if you do not save, you're going to see a blue button. It will be highlighted to save. And so once you save it, then you see that it is saved. But if it's grayed out, it means that there is something missing on that Smartsheet form. It could be that maybe you didn't click if they are participating in one of the programs, or you did not enter the private school name, or you didn't enter the district's contact phone number. So make sure that that lights up as blue before you're able to click on that message. If you want a copy of what you have submitted, you must click on Send Me a Copy of My Responses, where that yellow arrow is. If you do not click that button and you submit only, you will not have a copy of your responses. It is very important for those that are working with Equitable Services that they actually click on the button to ensure that and enter their email address, because that way at least you have a submission receipt. If you do not click on that button, there will not be a receipt. You will not be able to see what you submitted. unless you have access to the dynamic view to look into the WorkApp and see all of the private schools that have been uploaded and what they have been, which programs they indicated they would participate in. Otherwise, you would not have that knowledge if you're the person that is only doing the working part of equitable services, but you're not able to see the dynamic view. This is what the dynamic view looks like for those that have access once they have uploaded the information. I just kind of put this up at the front, up at the top. This shows all of the programs because the spreadsheet is pretty long, but it shows all of the programs at the top and it will say if they're participating or not. And that's what will be seen. If you select that you want to receive a copy, put your email address, you will receive it all in an email so that you can keep it for your records to remember if you submitted that affirmation or not and what that school said that they participated in the event you cannot see the dynamic view. Here's an example of what it looks like when a district goes in to see the list of schools that are participating. They're seeing which ones are within school boundaries, which ones are not, but they have participation either through an SSA, third party, or the LEA. And so here you can see these are the names of all of the private schools that are participating, and you can see the responses for each of the programs. And then you're going to sign out of the affirmations dynamic view. But I wanted to share with everyone because I know not everyone can see that dynamic view on what it looks like. If for some reason you need to make changes to an affirmation, for example, a district decided not to participate in Title I Part A, but they still, or the private school, but that private school still wants to participate with Title II and IV. So the person that has access to the dynamic view would be able to go in and make those changes to say no to Title I Part A for St. Mary's, and then they would leave the Title II and IV for St. Mary's, and then they would need to upload additional, revised affirmation that shows that St. Mary's, for example, is only participating in 2 and 4 program services. There is no longer a comment box for revisions. The LEA that has access into the dynamic view will be able to make those changes on their own this year. This is new for this year. Last year, you had to send comment box information through comment boxes. This year, we took it out. So you will make your own changes in this dynamic view if you have access. And then you will sign out of the WorkApp. And here you see, this is the information. This is a sample of what it looks like when everything is filled out on that Smartsheet. And then you see here where it says file attachment, there's a sample of a file that's been attached, which is the affirmation of consultation form. If at all possible, please stick to only uploading the affirmations. I do have some districts that have uploaded additional letters and documents. This is when we had our consultation meeting. We don't need that in the WorkApp. That is documentation that you keep on file. If there are any issues with your submission, that is what a little bit of what I spoke about earlier. And so here, this is what I was talking about when the LEA can get into the dynamic view, they are going to make those changes to that particular school. Do not add another line for a district, for a district's private school to make changes. If that school is already listed, then you make the changes on that one line where that school is listed. so that we don't have duplicate lines for the same school with different data or even the same data. There should be one line per school. And so as you get into the dynamic view, you make those changes and attach the signed affirmation before clicking save. And that will automatically upload that affirmation into the school line, and auditors will look at the most recent affirmation. And this is just a recap of what I have stated earlier, just as a reminder. And like I said, maybe I'm sounding like a broken recorder, but it's because I can see now there are already affirmations that are uploaded that say not participating. And I also see affirmations that have 2 and 3 lines for the same school, and that should not be the case. If for some reason you do upload in error a document that is not an affirmation, or it's the affirmation from an incorrect year, because you should only be using the 25-26 affirmation, that is when you can use the WorkApp help form to request what change is needed. And TA would make that change. Please make a screenshot of what you need um, deleted or what you need support with, so that if it is incorrect data that was submitted, if it was a second school line and you need to delete the first school line for some reason, then please type what you need, but also do a screenshot so that we will know which line needs to be deleted. If it's St. Mary's is in there twice, which line needs to be deleted so that we only have one line per school and we have the correct affirmation form uploaded. And again, if it's just that you need to change data on that same school, you'll be able to do that yourself. Do not do a WorkApp help form for that. And here you have the link for the WorkApp, and where you can do the WorkApp, submit things through the Smartsheet. If there are any issues with getting into the WorkApp or getting connected, then into the affirmations sheet, please submit a WorkApp help form. If you're submitting that WorkApp help form, this is what you need to select if it's for the PNP affirmations. There is one of the selections for the WorkApp project is LEA PNP Affirmations WorkApp. That is what you will select. And once you select that, then you're going to type what is the issue with that has been uploaded already. And so you're going to say, okay, over on the right side where it says issue category, you're going to select, is it that you need an attachment removed? Maybe you attach the incorrect affirmation or additional documentation that should not be there. The next one is that maybe you entered or submitted the incorrect data, and that private school, for that private school, you should be able to correct that. But if for some reason you can't correct it in the dynamic view and you have access to that, then you will need to submit a WorkApp so we can see what is going on with that. And then if there are other issues with some of the other programs, the same help form will work for that as well. There are a few additional dates that are coming up that I need you to be familiar with. The first one is the next one is September 19th. That will be a time when I will have office hours for open Q&A session on September 19th from 9 to 10 Central Standard Time. You must pre-register for that office hour session. And during that session, it will be opportunity for districts and private schools to ask questions specifically about the WorkApp, or for districts to ask questions about the WorkApp, because private schools are not able to post anything on the WorkApp. They're welcome to attend. If you cannot attend that session, I will be capturing all of the Q&As and providing responses, and those responses will be posted on our webpage. So I do want you to know that you'll be able to locate those responses, as well as all of the training information that we have on our webpage. And I am going to put in the, let's see, move on. Okay, here are some resources for the ESSA formula, which are the grants I just spoke about, and the 21st Century grant. The 21st Century, again, that is a competitive grant. It does have its own WorkApp system. So do not upload 21st Century grant affirmation of consultation forms under the formula grants. And you will not see Title IV Part B on the smart sheet that I was just talking about, because it has its own link, and that link will be on the next few slides. These links are specifically for the ESSA programs that are listed, that are the formula grants. There's a training video to understand the general smart sheet instructions. There's instructions that you can download from our website. There's also how to submit through the WorkApp. There's a general help form, information, and instructions as well. And then there is the TEA federal program compliance links, where you can go into those links to get more information, not only about our program, but also the smart sheets for the formula grants, as well as this voiced over video will be posted, and you'll be able to view that or share it later. I'm hoping to have that posted by September 12th, if not earlier. The link to the presentation will also be posted as well. I do not have the link to the presentation right now, but if you do put your email address in the check-in, I can email it out to you. The local ESCs do have a copy of the presentation presentation, so they can also send you the presentation of the affirmation instructions and submission guide, so you can get it those ways before it's actually posted on our webpage. Here are the links for 21st Century. As you can see, that last bullet is specifically the smart sheet link for Title IV Part B. So if you are participating and with the competitive grant, please use that for 21st Century affirmations. If you have any questions about 21st Century program and who the subgrantees are, or anything about that, then I have posted the Texas After School Centers on Education, the webpage, so that you can go there and get more support for 21st Century. Here are web resources for all of the ed resources that we have. And so with those resources, you can read more about the equitable services for Title I Part A, plus all the other programs. It's a direct link to the guidance document as well as the statute. And then I've also included the Ed Office of Non-Public Education. And here I am including the instructions for requesting the Smartsheet WorkApp system access. And again, If you are an LEA, it is up to the LEA leadership to grant you access to the system. TEA does not grant access to the Smartsheet system. Your LEA leadership or ESC leadership would need to grant you access first. And these are the steps in which to be granted access. And then if the access is approved, then that's when you will be able to see the dynamic view and have access once TEA receives that approval from your leadership staff. Here is the link, the QR code for the presentation feedback. Please do go in and complete the evaluation. I appreciate all of your comments, all of your questions, and I'd appreciate your feedback. Thank you for joining this session. Again, my name is Lenny Terges, and I am the PNP Ombudsman. You can reach me by phone or email. It is quicker to reach me by email, and you can email either an email address if you have questions, my direct email or the PNP Ombudsman email. I try to have those with specific Ombudsman related questions regarding the PNP equitable services or the affirmation to submit to the PNP Ombudsman email address, because in the event that I am out of the office, then other staff have access to that email and may be able to answer your questions. Thank you for attending this session, and I am going to stop the recording now, and I will stay on and go through the questions that have been posted in the Q&A version.